right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of the Two Gargoyles podcast. Now with twice as much iron as your normal brand of liver. Joining me today, I have Mike Rieger.
Hello.
And I have Kyle Burles, who is waving quietly. And our very first guest star today, special guest star all the way from California, Jeremy Few. Hi, Jeremy.
What's up?
What's up? Jeremy, you're new to the podcast, so why don't you tell people just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Pretty much just draw superhero stuff, standard comic book fare.
Standard comic book fare.
Yeah.
What's your favorite comic, Jeremy?
Gosh, I don't really have many favorites anymore. For recent stuff, I read Saga. That was fun. I read this comic called Upwards. That was nice. The art was nice, kind of.
I happen to know this about Jeremy, you guys. You have a strong affinity for the 1990s X-Men.
Yeah. I mean, I read that every day, but that's not like new stuff that people would read.
Doesn't matter. It's interesting. It's like a portrait of you to know that you are a devoted X-Men fan. Who's your favorite X-Men?
Probably Rogue, because she can do anything.
Yeah, that's good.
Also has to do with you. Just cool. Boop.
Just a boop. Okay, quick survey. Mike, who's your favorite X-Man?
Magneto.
Magneto, very good. Mike does like the villains. Why is that, Mike?
I don't know. I just thought of it just now because I hadn't ever thought about that before.
Oh. Kyle, who's your favorite X-Man?
I hate to be a copycat, but I have to actually say Rogue. But back when she was like the short bob and the orange poncho, when she was still the villain.
Yes,
yeah.
I did like that.
I miss orange poncho Rogue.
I miss the 80s too, Kyle. My favorite is Storm, because she has white hair and she can control the weather and fly, and she's kind of badass. Love everything about it. Alrighty, so the news. We're going to try and follow a format here on the Two Guard podcast. So, this just in, coming to you live from downtown Burbank. In this case, beautiful upscale Airdrie, Alberta.
Jeremy's kind of close to Burbank.
That's around the corner. 2 hours.
Around the corner from beautiful downtown Burbank, we've got Jeremy Few, almost live. Big news happened in Two Gargs in the past couple of weeks. I was invited to join the Canadian Comic Book Alliance, the CCBA. Their website is theccba.com. And it's, as the title suggests, an alliance of independent Canadian comic book people, writers, artists. And it's growing by leaps and bounds. And they have a strong media presence. They have a strong convention presence. So being asked to be part of them is kind of a big deal. And I'm just like super jazzed to be part of it. Kyle, you were going to say something?
I was going to say you should put the logo, the website down there.
If only I were smart enough to do that. I will just type it in. Boop. There we go. Voila. Yeah, check them out. There's a lot of great creators on there. And now Two Gargoyles is one of them. So that's cool. Also, big news. Finished Punch, the Magical Mr. Punch #1, the first issue. The art is complete. We're just waiting on the coloring. And then it will be ready to kickstart, which is nice. Also, Twilight Detective Agency #2 just wrapped this week. So look forward to that Kickstarter as well. Also, I finished the script to Magical Mr. Punch #2 because I was too impatient waiting for the first one to be done, so I had to write the second one. Mike, you're very close to the end of Twilight Detective Agency Girls Out #2, isn't that so?
I am working on page 27 of 28 right now. And at that point, I'm just waiting for the cover art colorist to finish her cover art coloring. And then it goes into the printing stage.
Love it.
You should get a proof copy that I obsess over for a while, and then I throw it up on the sites.
Nice. So we will be advertising the crap out of that once that comes out. And Mike, you're not doing a Kickstarter for that issue. Is that correct?
No. Because I get to write and draw and letter and put together my books by myself. It's super cheap, and I don't need people to contribute.
Understood.
I do pay my cover artists, but that's just out of my own pocket.
Yeah. So it might be maybe too much effort to do crowdfunding for something you've basically dealt with yourself. Which,
I thought about it. I put the pages up on Patreon a few weeks after I do them, but I didn't think that crowdfunding beyond that was really necessary, so I don't.
Oh, but big kudos to you. Doing an entire comic by yourself has got to be very liberating, but also a bit of work, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it is a bit of work. Fortunately, I have nothing but free time nowadays, so it's going a lot faster than I'd planned. But yeah.
Very similar story for all of us. Kyle, do you have any news? What's going on with KyoHazard.com right now?
Nothing I can really share yet.
Okay, so
Dun.
so that means there's stuff going on.
There is.
Just can't really talk about it right now.
Well, Gloaming issue 4 is still in production.
Yes. What page are we on now? Gloaming number 4.
12? 13?
12.
Sweet.
12 or 13 out of 20. So we're over the hump.
Whoop. Yeah. All right.
Is there humping and gloaming?
Yes. Page 12.
Okay, good.
I'm inking page 12.
Is that why it's taking so long?
I will
Because
look
of all
forward
the
to
things.
that.
I love that Kyle has no idea what he was saying yes to. It's just like, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, I knew. I have no
Great.
shame.
No. Jeremy, what's your project right now? What are you working on?
Working on Diaper Man Meets Milk.
Oh, tell us
Pretty
about
much
that.
every day. So you made Diaper Man what, like the mid 90s?
1990.
This about the same time when I made up this character Milk. So it just makes sense for them to go together because they're both kind of zany, kind of just weird off the beaten path, kind of, not your typical superhero fare.
You could say silly. It's acceptable.
I mean, it's not supposed to be just like super like adult, it's funny, but it's not meant for, mature audiences in that respect. It's not like
Interesting.
it's not like, nudity or whatever. Maybe a swear word once.
Oldity.
Oldity. Well, you know what? I'm going to use that as a segue into this week's topic. And our topic is comics ratings. And I don't mean, like very good mint or near mint. I don't mean that kind of rating. I mean the kind where it's like, is this comic PG? Is it rated R? Is it for all ages? So I did a little bit of digging.
Yeah.
And there is no one rating system for comics. Basically, each company that does do ratings has their own ratings. So I'm just going to call up the ratings that I've got for Marvel, just as the first company that came up. So here we go. There's that. So we've got all ages, A, which is appropriate for ages 9 and up, T, teens and up, parental advisory is for 15 years and older, and then max, which is explicit content, so 18 years and older. All the ratings that I have found are just a variation on this theme. So basically, there's for everybody who's just a little bit older, and then teens with warning, and adults. That's pretty much how it all goes. So we'll just stop doing that. So let's have some opinions here. Oh, the Code Authority. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, you are a seduction of the innocent. So let's begin with you. Your opinion on
Seducing the innocent?
Your opinion on ratings.
I think it's a good idea-ish. Mostly because, you should know what you're getting before you get the book. I don't necessarily, it allows parents or older guardian to help decide what their kids should or shouldn't see. That is the parent's right. So I don't believe anything should be banned or censored. I think we should all be allowed to go, but I am a fan of the ratings system.
All right.
Well, your comic, Gloaming, is a horror comic. About what age
Correct.
would you say it would be appropriate for kids?
Teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is why?
Mature subject matter.
All right. But not so mature that can't handle it if I'm under 18. Running away screaming. Okay.
No, it's just there's a lot of background pictures of Victor Mature in it. So.
All right, kids who have to Google that, we'll give you a couple minutes.
A lot of adults will have to Google that.
I'm Googling
it. So, Mike, your thoughts on the whole rating system?
Well, I actually put one into place for your table because my comic, it's not unusually violent, but there are sexual themes in it, and I didn't really want a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old to be picking it up without giving the parents a little warning that says, hey, you're going to see a bum. And so, yeah, I can see you're holding up the table stands that I put together to go behind your comics to give parents the heads up that, hey, this one, it's got a boob, and you should know that.
Jeremy, how about you? Like, would you ever slap a rating on any of your work, Jeremy?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a gray area for me because most of my most like kind of messed up, crazy, like more adult subject matter cartoons, basically characters I'd made up when I was like 15. So I'm like, maybe teen and up. Maybe. I wouldn't imagine like, anybody preteen should be reading anything that I produce.
But that's the interesting thing, right? You can create something when you're 15, and it's so inappropriate, they would label it as adult, even though it was created by a 15-year-old.
Cartoons, basically characters I'd made up when I was like 15. So I'm like, maybe teen and up. Maybe. I wouldn't imagine like, anybody preteen should be reading anything that I.
What was the name of the superhero team you invented in junior high?
The Bitchin' Bitches.
The Bitchin' Bitches. I love that. It's a great title, but right away, if you saw that on somebody's table, you'd be like, what rating is this?
Steal that from my book.
Yep. The Bitchin' Bitches.
That'd be good.
It's taken.
It was just a bunch of superheroes that just didn't have good superpowers. They were just kind of crap, but they would always fight with each other.
So it's
hence the bitching, I guess.
Yeah, the bitching.
Yeah.
So back to these, just quickly. Mike made these for my convention table. They're inserts that go behind the comics on the table, and they have the title and a brief tagline, and then a synopsis, and then right here, like the big rating, which Mike took from video game ratings, actually, just to let people know the basic rating of the comics. And one of the reasons why I like ratings on comics is for the ease of sale. I like when it's not a part of the conversation that you have to have. You don't have to tell them, well, it's okay for, little Johnny and, little Sue, but it's not okay for their younger sister or whatever. You have to, it's a lot of work you have to do to sell. And if you've got a rating on it, it just eases the conversation between making that decision to buy for the customer, in my opinion. I don't think it should be mandatory. I think if you choose to do it, great. If not, you should not have to do it, because I'm really big on the idea of personal responsibility. If your child is reading something you don't want them to read, it's up to you to talk about that with your child, not about with the comic store. And of course, in the 80s, we had a huge big blow up about that. Actually, it's why we've got the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund and things like that, to prevent people from being overly litigious because their child read something they thought was inappropriate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think it should be mandatory either, but I do think it should be standardized. The reason I use the video game one for your backers is because comics don't have one that will be easily understandable for people. Like if we put an A on it for the when you showed up first, people aren't going to understand what that means. And so I use the video game letters and logos so that parents would go, oh yeah, I know what that means when it's on Call of Duty, so I know what it means when it's on this comic book.
Exactly. Because there is no standardized anything, as you said. Like the one I called up was the Marvel one, but DC has another one. Image has one. Like they're similar but different. There is no one regulatory body. I'm just going to show some examples of comics here. Indie comics first, as always. This is Aurora Man, done by Jeff Burton out of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. And it's a great Canadian comic, but nowhere on it is there a rating, right?
What's the comic like?
It's very family friendly. Aurora Man is basically a teacher, and he has a public identity. So there's kids in the comic, it's very community minded. And so, there's nothing really too explicit. Ta-da! Everyone is happy, friendly. There's kids. Ta-da!
Probably doesn't need one then.
Well, exactly, right? Meanwhile, here in DC's Legion of Superheroes, again, no rating. Couldn't find one. Looked through the whole book. And I would call this a teen book because there are, there's political intrigue in it and there's other things going on. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Well, Legion of Superheroes is always really filthy. So, everyone knows that.
And then I decided to go with a horror comic called Coffin Bound. And so if you like Lucifer, this one's a lot weirder. That's the tagline up the front here. The rating is way on the back here. Right here, it's rated mature. And it's a horror comic. Yeah, I know. Jeremy's like,
no one's going to see that.
My monocle out.
There we go. Rated M for mature. Yeah, and so out of all the comics, this is the only one that had a rating on it. And I guess because it's the spooky one?
Won't someone think of the children?
I know, won't someone? Oh, we have a question. Do you guys consider ratings to be censorship, or do you consider them simply guidelines assigned by someone somewhere whose morals and standards speak for the majority?
B.
Loaded. I don't think anyone's suggesting that comics of a more adult bent should be censored. Obviously we approve of them and want to keep making them. But I don't want to just throw it in parents' faces when they're at a convention, not suspecting anything, and then Timmy picks up, for example, my book. I would like the parents to have that little warning.
Yes.
Should they be assigned by a regulatory agency? I don't think I like that idea. I'd rather the artists pick the assignation that they think is...
Well, that's what the Comics Code Authority was. Way back in the 50s and 60s, and it's gone now, right? I'm correct. Yeah. We've outgrown it, and I think that's important to realize that. Yeah, this is not something we need. It's something that's convenient, but we don't need to be regulated. This is art. Please don't try to regulate art. That's my thought on it. Our questioner Sherry. Parents have every right to decide what their children see, but it's up to them to know what their children are reading, watching, or playing. The onus is not on the creators to decide what is or is not appropriate for every kid on the planet. At least in my house, my mother knew what we were doing and allowed or banished items to her standards, which is perfectly fair, right? You're the parent. That's your child. You are the one creating the rules for their universe, right? I'm just saying, don't yell at a comic creator if little Timmy comes home with a comic you don't approve of. That's a conversation between you and Timmy.
Poor Timmy. He's going to get
Timmy. He's so many
Your
beans.
father gets home, Timmy.
Oh, just you wait.
We're going to see another Timmy.
I don't care if Timmy fell down the well. It's just ridiculous. All right, so let's go to our guest star. Hello, Mr. Jet Comics. Hello, Jeremy Thew. What is Jet Comics?
Anything that I produce, basically, it's just my initials with comics afterwards. I just slap
cool.
that on everything. So, yeah.
But I think that's awesome, though.
So if you just Google Jet Comics, I'm sure you'll find all sorts of weird stuff. Maybe stuff you don't even want to see. But it's not rated. Look online. Google's not rated. So,
oh, there you go. So you were talking about Milk earlier and how she's different. She's zany. She is not your usual superhero fare. Tell us about Milk. Who is she?
well, like I was kind of writing her to be like the tick with tits. You know,
The Tick with Tits.
with
I
tits.
love that so much.
Yeah.
Where has that tagline been all this time?
I know. Come on now.
But yeah, I basically just drew her because I was bored. Right after it was like the day or two after Christmas. It was 1995. I was 14 years old. Yeah. And I just wanted to be like, I just wanted to draw something that I wasn't used to seeing. There was a bunch of teenagers around. You know, we were just talking like teenage boys do about boobs and things. And I'm like, well, let's make them useful and make them like a superpower. Why not? You know. But what could boobs do? Oh, I guess they can lactate. So, so all of her powers are based around that.
So she lactates on people.
Yeah, with a force of a fire hydrant. You know.
Well, you know what? Nothing fills me with the Christmas spirit like talking about boobs and their superpowers. That's a great Christmas story. I think you should make a cartoon out of it for Christmas.
It's like eggnog kind of stuff, you know, like it's gross and kind of for adults, but kids want it for some reason. They want to just try it.
Sure.
You and I have
Yeah.
very different experiences over eggnog.
Speaking of going down the well,
Oh, Timmy. So you are, and she has not had like a debut comic. Like she's not appeared in anything published yet, has she?
No, not really. I've drawn a couple of almost comics, but I can't really wrap my mind around like a full complete story. It just kind of like meanders off into no man's land, and yeah, I kind of have ADD with my comics. Like, where's it gonna go? Oh, I don't know. Maybe she'll do this. Blah. So I'm not really very good at plotting out something. Like I'll draw pages and pages and pages of action, but where's it going? Who knows?
And this is like, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting a partner, you know, like working on a book together, you know, that kind of thing. Almost as if you knew a writer and asked the writer to help you create a Milk comic.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll do it, but only because you asked so nicely.
Only if you include Diaper Man. No.
Which brings us to, yes, my subtle, oh so subtle hint. Jeremy and I are, in fact, working on Milk's debut comic together. Diaper Man meets Milk, because we thought we would just combine our zany characters into one big crossover event. And if people like it, we will continue doing more. So that's in the works right now. We've got 25 pages of script so far. I'm anticipating possibly a 36-page comic.
Oof.
Yeah, well, it's one of those crossover event things. You know, like they used to do annuals where like all the X-Men would get together for a barbecue and then Galactus would invade or something like that. And so it's usually a double-sized issue, like 40 pages or 44 pages or whatever.
Yes, your giant-sized man thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing a
Yeah,
giant-sized woman thing. Incredibly giant-sized. And the funny thing is, working on it, like Jeremy was saying, he often has ideas, but they don't go to a logical conclusion. So
Right.
I'm asking him backstory about his characters. Like, what's this character's motivation? What's this? Like, I don't know. She throws knives. Leave me alone.
Oh yeah, Jeremy. Why is there a character just named Tina? Oh, we thought.
Reference. It's a drug reference, you know, because that's what I was doing.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Michael told me there's a character just named Tina.
I don't
Yeah.
get
Like, is there psychic Joyce? I explain this to me.
She doesn't get a superhero name because she's the everything
Oh.
character that I use for everything. Like if there's a random cop in the background, it's her. If there's a random nurse featured in the panel, just make it Tina. Why not?
Oh, she's the night nurse of your universe. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. But yeah, she can throw knives because that's the only backstory I ever made for her was she was a daughter of a ringleader for a circus or whatever. So so she learned knife throwing just as a technique, so she could be useful because you got to be useful if
As
you're in
you
a
do.
circus. She's just a little girl with black hair. So what's she gonna do? Just throw knives.
and enter the writer who's like, I will make something out of this somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little
Collab-
bit darker than that, but I don't want to go into
Yeah.
all of it.
yeah, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Don't divulge the secrets of Tina.
Mhm.
Right. What's your like when you are just drawing for yourself? What's your favorite thing to draw? Like, do you have a theme that you follow? Like Kyle, for example, is very good at 70s mashups, like television references. Like the humor is very much a part of Kyle's deal. So what about your deal? What would you say it is?
My go-to just stress relief drawing is I'll either draw like Sailor Moon or some random X-Men doing whatever. But it's not for like production stuff. It's just to get something off my chest or just to do something besides work-related art.
Well, we talked about you being an X-Men fan, so you're obviously a Sailor Moon fan as well.
Yeah.
Would you say
It's
there's
on my wall over there.
there she is. Hello.
Where?
Lovely poster. Would you say there's an anime influence to your work?
A little bit. I mean, I would lie if I said I didn't learn something from watching hundreds of animes and drawing the characters from them. I just kind of I try and do as clean of a line as possible when I draw stuff. It's kind of anime-ish, but I like the more kind of gritty animes, like the early '90s, and more experimentally kind of anime where it looks like they took a lot more effort than like the Digimon looking new stuff that's out. Where it's all like washed out and just like, here's a line, that's a face.
Sorry, Digimon fans, your fandom is bad and you are mad. Just
Yes.
so you know. Yes.
I
Oh,
like
we got
some of them, though. Some
we
of
have
them
another
are cool.
question. We have a question from Sherry. Assuming you've all done conventions in both countries, do you find customers more concerned about ratings in Canada or the US?
U.S.
I
Yeah,
don't
you've
know.
had
It's kind of
why the US, Kyle?
I don't want to alienate American viewers. Way more.
how many do you think we have?
Yeah, they know what they did.
Sorry, America.
It gets to a much more, adult theme. Do I want to use the word repressed? Kinda a little, but
Yeah.
American morals are a little more hardcore. Would be the word, I think. In general,
We got more stick up the ass people down here who have like a set idea in their mind of what should be appropriate for whoever, whether they have kids or not. They think like, oh, that's not appropriate for my kids. I'm like, you don't even have kids. You're just a random teenage girl. Like, shut up.
it doesn't
I just-
hold the human spirit.
I want to point out
From Winnipeg.
Jeremy's American, just so you know. Please don't at us. I have found that, Jeremy, would you please show the T-shirt that you're wearing so that everybody can see? It says inappropriate, www.twogargs.com. I made these shirts because that was the number one feedback I got from passersby going by my table at a Canadian convention, specifically the Calgary Expo. I had art out on the table that was, like Harley Quinn looking sassy, nothing too over the top, but people like little 5-year-olds would run up and go, look, that's Harley Quinn. So they knew who the character was, which I find a little inappropriate, but anyway. But then the mother would be like, no, that's inappropriate. And it happened like 5 times in one show. So I decided That's the summary. That's the takeaway from all Two Gargs comics, is that they must be inappropriate. Nobody came and complained to me about it, so I didn't have to deal with that. But I could certainly hear the feedback. It was very loud and obviously meant for me to be heard. Mike, has anyone ever mentioned your work in a what do you call a ratings way?
Well, my table has never had comics on it, so it hasn't really come up for me
No,
either way.
no one's just complained about your art randomly or praised your art for strange reasons or.
Not so far. I mean, someday my prince will come, but I haven't got any great stories like the rest of you. Frankly, Kyle's story is still the best one that I can remember. The Winnipeg guy.
Oh, yes. Good Lord. Tell that story, Kyle.
Well, as much as I can remember it, it was a good, 10 years ago, 15 years ago maybe? And a bunch of my prints were out, and I don't have anything that's really adult content in general. A lot of, obscure references and stuff that kids don't get. And a kid was looking through my book, and his dad, older brother, uncle, was there, and he basically turned around and was like, "None of this ennobles the human spirit." And I went, "You're right. It doesn't."
It's not wrong.
Is that the goal?
Apparently, but I was not willing to carry on the conversation or eat longer. So,
yeah. Sometimes people will just, because you're behind the table, people are like, "Oh, I can unload on you because you are in some way, shape, or form now my listening post because you can't leave the table. So I'm going to tell you my opinions on anything, not even necessarily related to what's on the table in front of me. I'm just going to tell you everything I feel and think." And that's kind of with par for the course when you're running a table at a convention. Oh, there are stories. So many stories. My favorite is when I leave the table to go to the bathroom and leave Jeremy alone.
It's my favorite too.
It's his favorite thing. Jeremy loves it. He does not.
It's when you leave.
I know, and that actually it drives me crazy. Sales always go up when I leave the table, so I'm like, yes, thank you so much. That's totally what I want.
It's not always true. Sometimes I'm just got my head in a book and people just walk by and I'm like, bye. Whatever, bye.
That is what happens when he's not there, yeah.
How much is this? I don't know. Bye. Go away.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you guys rate your comics? Like Mike, TDA I think you said maybe for teens?
I gave it an M for mature.
M for mature, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sexual situations, language, violence.
The violence, all comics have violence. I wasn't concerned about that. It's the sexual situations.
Oh, okay.
Now, to be clear, I don't actually show penetration or anything, but it is discussed. So I gave that an M.
Jeremy, how do you rate milk?
She's not super sexual. She just happens to have giant boobs that shoot milk. That's just her problem that she has to deal with. She doesn't think of it like, "Oh, I'm so hot, I'm gonna run around showing my ass off." It's like, no, it just happens to be her ass is out because she's wearing a little leather thong thing. That's just her uniform. She can't help it. It's just how it is.
The girl can't help it. You're using the girl can't help it defense.
Well, I mean, Emma Frost doesn't wear a lot of clothes. That's a teen book.
Yeah. That's true. It's true. Because, I mean, we've spent years being programmed, where it's like, if a woman wears a thong bikini, it's like, oh, that's acceptable superhero wear, Yeah. But give Lion-O a midriff shirt and people lose their minds. Like, that's awakening the wrong sexual feelings. Oh, God, why?
Yeah.
Don't get me started on He-Man. For loincloth of abs for days. Oh, my God.
Speaking of He-Man,
think.
Carry on. I want to get you started.
Oh, I see.
And go.
Well, He-Man and Thundercats were both actually sort of mid-range cartoons from the 80s that had, they were cartoons, so everyone thought they were for children. However, flash forward to today, so many people, so many adults writing articles about their sexual awakening based on those two cartoons, because the characters were like, the males were all Ripley muscles, the women were like very scantily clad, and so people sexualized them even when they were teenagers, right? So it just goes to show, you may rate your show as, for all ages, but that doesn't mean that it isn't going to get into people's minds in its own way, right? And likewise, the opposite is true. You could tell little 7-year-old Kyle, you shouldn't be reading horror comics. And little 7-year-old Kyle will be like, F you, I love horror comics. So there we go. Ratings
Yeah, and you grew up fine, so,
Yeah, he's totally normal. Look at him.
good. No problem at all.
I'm seeing a basement surrounded by toys.
Alrighty, so closing comments, you guys. Anything you want to say?
Plurm.
Plurm, yes, absolutely. Plurm. When it's got to be real, it's got to be plurm. Why aren't we doing
Oh, you
more
mean a topic? I'm sorry.
dancing from topic to topic?
What is the topic? What are we talking about?
Why are we here today? We're talking about ratings, and that was, of course, a very, very short topic because, it's the ratings aren't the be-all, end-all of comics. They're a convenience. They're not mandated, and they are not. What's that word where it means everybody is the same? Standardized. Thank you. Like testing. That doesn't
Like
go
testing.
well at schools.
Exactly.
So this has been the 4th episode of the Two Gargs live stream podcast. Your hosts have been me, Michael McAdam, and we've got Kyle Burles. And we've got of Kyohazard. I'm going to put that up for you there. Boop. There you go. Ta-da! And then we've had Mike Rieger.
Hello.
And his hand. And then the official Jeremy Few, straight from California. If you want to help us succeed, here's what you can do. If you're watching this on Facebook, please give us some thumbs up. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe down below. And if you're listening on iTunes, please give us a 5-star review. I know this is only episode 4, but we do want to still keep bringing you more content. So we'll cue our theme music now and say goodbye for another Saturday edition of the Two Gargoyles podcast.
I unplugged it, so we're just going to go and hum it.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Bum, 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 bum. Thank you.